In good old merry England there were many dogs on the street, rabid dogs, feral dogs, after the butcher's meat. And they would bark and they would bite when the beggars came to town, old soldiers from some recent war, forgotten by a graceless crown. Whip, dogs, whip, whip the dogs of York, whip, dogs, whip, whip the dogs of York. Close by the cobbled Shambles, where the butchers cleaved and cut, where the blood ran down the gutter, and you'd better wear a hat. Well endowed with beast blood gold, close by waters of the foss, far from the river Ouse stood the great church of St. Cruz. Whip, dogs, whip, dogs, whip the dogs of York, whip, dogs, whip, dogs, whip the dogs of York. The 18th of October, it happened every year. The church was packed for St. Luke's Day Mass, standing folk head bowed in prayer. For St. Luke, the blessed physician, was also the butcher's saint. In those days of faith long gone, remember that picture I paint. Whip, dogs, whip, whip the dogs of York, whip, dogs, whip, whip the dogs of York. Come the holiest moment of the Mass, the priest raised up the host and dropped it. A gasp, and from beneath the altar a dog seized hold and ran into the street. A great hue and cry ensued, and in Whip-Ma-Whop Ma-Gate the dog was caught and thrashed. On the 18th of October, it happened every year, the dogs were whipped in the city of York, for the sake of St. Luke, in the name of the church, and all the folk would cheer. Whip, dogs, whip, whip the dogs of York, whip, dogs, whip, whip the dogs of York, whip, dogs, whip, whip the dogs of York. For St. Luke, whip the dogs of York.